Hey there guys, and welcome to another Factorio 1.0 tutorial Let's Play episode in my series here. I'm Xterminator, and thank you for joining me. Excuse me. And what I've done here off camera is I've set up this mining outpost here, at least the majority of it, and we have it all ready to be belted up to our smelters. Our iron is running very, very low here at the moment. I also expanded power a little bit here. I added about 8 more steam engines, or 4 boilers worth. Now, this is not actually 3 full belts. It's 3 belts, but they're not actually full. So I think I could reasonably maybe get about 2 belts out of this. So in order to conserve space and belt, I am going to run 2 belts out of this. But taking up from each splitter is going to be really important here. Because again, if we just take from both lines from one splitter, it's going to kind of just defeat the point of the balancer. Now, something you may be noticing as I zoomed in there that I do want to mention and apologize for, the resolution, the graphics are not very good. I'm currently out of town, actually. I'm at my parents' for my mom's birthday, and I brought my spare computer with me. My main computer is way too big and heavy and a pain to move. So for some reason, the graphics card on this computer is certainly sufficient for high-res graphics. In fact, I used to run high-res graphics in the game on this computer. But for some reason, it refuses to take that setting now. I set it to high. It says it needs a restart, and I restart the game, and then it just comes back to being the normal setting when I restart. So I'm not entirely sure what exactly the deal is there, why that happened. Actually, I'm gonna go a different way. I'm gonna go around here. So unfortunately, we're running on lowest graphics. It should really probably only be for about this episode. I'm coming back home on Tuesday, so that really shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, just a heads up on that. Apologize, guys, for having to look at this. We used to play with this all the time, but before the high-res graphics were introduced. But you know, now that we've had them for a good while, it's very much of an eyesore, really, to play with them, quite honestly. So I think what we're gonna do is I could go here. This is quite a bit of extra landfill we'd need, though. So I'm actually going to change. I'm gonna change things up a little bit here. I'm gonna bring this over. Now this may seem a little bit silly because we just went over and then we're going back under, but in the long run I think this is going to save some landfill because we don't have to landfill this entire section now. And I'm gonna attempt to just landfill what I need here. May seem somewhat ridiculous. You know, maybe I'll just landfill this whole corner. So just do this, but this may actually look kind of cool anyway. I'm not sure. We'll see once it's built here. So we're going to run these, and then we're going to work on our rocket, of course. Probably do still want this turret here, you know, just in case. We did finish the productivity module research before I started up the episode. However, you know, the iron is so low that I think starting any other research is going to create a fair bit of a problem right now. So I'm just going to underground both these. Since it's 2 belts, it's the same amount as undergrounding these, so there's not really an advantage one way or the other. For 1 belt like this, it's certainly better to underground this rather than undergrounding 2 belts. So this guy, we're going to do a few things here. So this is maybe 1 belt. I'm not even sure if this is 1 belt, to be completely honest. So what we're going to do is I'm going to feed one of these lines into steel. I'm going to feed, so that is, if we watch this here for a second, even that is really not quite a full belt. But this will be, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to build this guy here. I'm going to maybe make this a little nicer. And then I think we're going to turn on a second smelter that's just going to run part way, like that. And really, since it is only going to run part way, I think it's probably fine to only have it be a short length right now, just to save us some time from building it. Of course, we will need to build it out in the future, but for right now, you know, since that isn't quite enough iron to run a full smelter that we have on that belt there, we will need to just use this amount. And if we look at our copper, we are using 3 power poles, although that's completely unnecessary. You can do it with just 2. I'm not actually sure why I decided to do 3 there. I think maybe because I had just taken this blueprint and used the upgrade planner. So this guy, we're going to combine into 2 belts. Again, remember, splitters can be used as mergers. So they're going to come over. It's going to go here. This is luckily all set up for us in all the other regards. And we may need to expand this. This maybe is enough to fill, to do more than that amount of smelting. So then this comes over. I have my bus laid out here, obviously in the very wrong place. In fact, all of this is kind of in a very inconvenient place. So this is it's going to require a little bit of reworking here, especially because 2 more copper lines need to come over. So this is going to be a bit interesting how we end up working this. Let's go ahead and just run this guy here. This got a little messed up for some reason. This is a full belt coming in here, so eventually this should make it down to the end. And then this guy, gonna do something like that, I think. Yes. Man, when you zoom in, you can really notice. When you're zoomed out, you don't notice that it's not high res graphics, but when you zoom in, holy moly, it is quite noticeable. Okay, let's back these up. So we're just gonna do our quick tie in here, just like we did with the copper. We don't necessarily need to do this all the way down. We certainly could. This power pole's a bit in the way here. So, I mean, we brought iron back to the state that at least was in initially because we only had the 1 smelter. Plus, we did add some additional. It looks like we're maybe missing something on that 1 furnace that's preventing it from running. And I have so many things in my inventory. I'm actually just going to put a box. Usually I end up having to put some sort of junk box here that consists of wood and other stuff that I usually just end up with that I don't really want. So, being attacked, that's not good. Definitely need to go deal with that right now. They made very quick work of that turret. That is quite concerning, actually. I'm going to go ahead and take out a road port, as much as I don't like doing that, because it's going to have to recharge. And we're going to take a laser. They managed to actually kill 2 lasers. It looks like we did finish off most of them. The lasers really... Those are quite expensive. It's unfortunate they managed to... It's unfortunate they managed to kill those. That was quite an attack, I must say. Here comes some more of them. Alright, where are these guys coming from, I wonder? Probably this base here, potentially this base as well. Looks like there may even be a base here. We'll have to look a little deeper into that. The gun turrets, like I've said before, with the upgrades, the gun turrets do make pretty quick work of the enemies. They really do. So, this guy here is not working for some reason. It looks like I faced the inserter the wrong way. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy and paste this down a little bit. Probably cut power to something important. The entire base, in fact. Something you have to watch out for. That's a very good reason to have redundancy in your base, in your setups. Don't forget power poles. Alright, let's get that iron flowing. Looks like, of course, I did mess up this. I did mess that up as well. In fact, most of these inserters are backwards. I don't know how I manage this. A lot of these inserters are backwards. Yeah, so now we're making steel on some of these, which is obviously not something we want to be doing. I think I just goofed on a lot of this, unfortunately. Okay, those are all good. These 2 are the only ones making steel. On that side, at least. We can probably queue up another research. So, we actually can now directly get the rocket silo, which is a huge step. It unlocks the rocket silo as well as the rocket part. Oh, looks like we actually still need this rocket control unit. So, The rocket control units are something that we do still need. I'm actually just going to pick these up. I don't really want to wait. And then that one will fix like that. That should get it all fixed up, and we can go ahead and dump some of this in here. Okie doke, so we have some better iron flow. It's still not great by any means. This one is still somehow not getting to the end here, which is a little bit puzzling. I know that this is the correct length. It's 24. Now it's possible, yeah, so even little discrepancies here. You can see once in a while there's actually a missing ore. You'll notice. These are actually not quite 2 full belts. And that, believe it or not, that is what is making this not work fully. This guy here, it looks like I forgot an inserter on. Okay, so we do still have, we have quite a few belts coming through here. You know, this is splitting down the best it can. We have some circuits flowing. So if we take a look here, add these rocket control units, they are quite expensive. We need processing units as well as speed modules for them. Now we are already making processing units, although on a pretty small scale for what we may need here. And then we will unlock the rocket silo. Luckily we actually do have processing units backed up. This is a very large amount, actually, can be deceiving. You know, the green circuits is probably actually best that these are backed up right now, so the green circuits can go to other things, as we really just are not making very many of them. This usually is the part of the game, at least for myself, where I do run into quite a few bottlenecks. So, you know, hopefully with that, I can help you guys, you know, maybe work through any that you find. Now notice there's actually a little piece of steel on here. So that's from our mishap with the smelting. So let's see what we can work on. I'm trying to decide if we should fix the bottleneck here or if we should just work on the other materials. The circuits are actually running almost entirely full capacity here. You can see it's probably, what, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of a belt coming out there. The majority of it is being used for red circuits. You can see a little bit's being used here. This is still pretty full. And then there's just almost nothing after the red circuits, which is not very surprising. So let's go check on our rocket fuel first off. So what we did last episode, see how that's turned out here. We have 151 of it. It's getting there. It's very slow. But again, we are so far off on everything else that it's actually fine with it being this slow. We could work on, now the low density structures, there's 2 ways we could do this. We could either build a build specifically for these, or if we want to just repurpose the one we've used for science, that's certainly an option too. And that's also an option for you guys. And it kind of depends what your goals are with the game. If you're purely just wanting to launch a rocket, once you unlock the rocket, there really should be, you know, there's not really much other reason to be doing research at that point. If that's purely your goal, just to launch the rocket and then maybe start a new base or just be done altogether. I would hope not, though, with being done altogether with the game. But you could just repurpose this. And I'm really tempted to, simply for the fact that, you know, we already know how to build this. I don't know that I would be providing much instruction by building it again. It would be basically the exact same setup. It would be easy. However, since our main goal for this playthrough, I believe, is to launch a rocket, you know, there is really, once we unlock the rocket here, there is not that much more research to be done, which means that these could just simply be repurposed to the rocket rather than into yellow science here. Of course, the same goes for blue circuits. I certainly will do just take the blue circuits from this build to go into the rocket control unit. So I'm debating doing these. Now we will need to set up a build for the rocket control unit, so we can at the very least start that until we decide what to do there. I'm gonna go ahead and set these up just over here. This is where we have room. And like I mentioned before, they are a very simple recipe. They're just quite expensive in their recipe. So if we take a look, these require a processing unit and speed module. We have the processing units, however, we do need to then make speed modules. Speed modules are quite simple. They are the same exact recipe and ingredients used in the productivity modules that we are making to make purple science. Of course, but these are speed modules. So the speed modules, they take 5 green circuits and 5 red circuits. And that will be a slight issue now because, of course, we don't have very many green circuits, but it's getting there. So if we want to ratio this, we don't have to. We didn't really ratio the rocket fuel perfectly, but we could at least just get a general idea. This takes 30 seconds to craft and needs 1 of each of those ingredients. This takes 15 seconds to craft and it gives us 1. So luckily, it's made very easy for us mathematically that in the time it takes to make 1 rocket control unit, it will we'll be able to make 2 of these, which means that 1 build making these guys here can support 2 things making rocket control units, which means if we wanted, I've never actually done this, I don't believe. If we wanted, we could do a direct insertion build, since it is a perfect 1-to-2 ratio. However, this is not necessary, just because of the slow craft time of everything involved in this recipe. Belts are perfectly sufficient. However, for a tutorial, just for instructional purposes and just experimenting, I'm going to do something I've never done, because I want to walk it through you guys, and maybe you want to see this, because I think direct insertion is actually something that's probably seen less common, specifically with this recipe. So maybe this will provide, something to you that you wouldn't necessarily find elsewhere. I've not set these recipes because we don't, of course, have this unlocked yet. And then, of course, the only other thing they take is that 1 blue circuit, which we are already making. So let's go ahead and get this going. Something like that, I believe. And I'm going to set up the inserters, and then we can simply copy paste. We could have done that with just the 1 thing. So this is going to be a red circuit and green circuit belt that runs through here. These are going to insert into here, and then these are going to grab the blue circuits. Now we could do something tricky, much like we do for the steel, if we really wanted to, where we actually share a belt. We have the blue circuits only being on half the belt, the inner half of the belt here. If we really wanted to, press Z, by the way, to drop, and I'm just mousing over the side of the belt I want. But we could do these here, and then we could have a second inserter outputting here, and these would go on the far side, because remember, inserters always 100% of the time output on the far side of a belt that runs horizontally to them like this. There's not much purpose in doing this particular method. I just thought I should mention it. What we will do is just use long-handed inserters. And the reason I say there's not much purpose for this, at least in our specific situation here, is because our rocket is going to be way over here. This is where we're making the rocket fuel. This is where we said we're going to put the silo. This is getting very dangerous, these attacks. So if we shared a belt with blue circuits, the blue circuits are obviously going to be running from the bottom up, from the bus, from south to north. So we need to be outputting, though, the rocket control units the opposite direction, north to south. So sharing the belt is, as you might imagine, not really great because they're going the wrong directions. So I think we're going to do that. I'm going to take some belt, and then I think I can copy paste these inserters at the very least, maybe power poles. I'm going to turn on my bots temporarily so I can do this without them placing placing everything. And then this, it's unfortunately not quite lining up there. Okay, so this is not going to look great. And actually, we've set this, so now let's go ahead and set these 2 recipes. Now, we can bring this here, and we should be able to copy paste this. Now, of course, we are going to be missing some belt, which is kind of unavoidable. Well, it's not completely unavoidable. It's not that big of a deal, though. It's very easy to just connect that in as we need it. We are missing the power poles and probably a few fast inserters as well. Actually, surprisingly not. It's just power poles, so we can go pick those up. That's a remnant belt there. And let's go grab our power poles. We did finish the rocket control unit research. All that's left now at this point is the rocket research, which is as we've seen, quite expensive, 1,000 of every single science pack. So that is going to drain our resources pretty heavily. Now, we could research the rocket now, and we'll be out of materials, and then we can slowly build up the, the actual parts to make the rocket. Or we could just start building up materials now, and then wait to research it. I'm just throwing options out there for you guys to consider. Personally, I'm going to just go ahead and research it right now, just so we're not sitting around waiting in this moment. As you can see, 1,000 of every single science pack except military. It used to take military, but not too long ago, the developers changed it so that you were able to access the rocket and technically beat the game without ever doing military science. Because military science is a bit of an odd one. It's one that is really completely optional. You can 100% beat the game without using it. And the reason they have that, the ability to do that is because, there's people who maybe like to play on peaceful mode where the biters just don't attack them unless they attack the biters, or they just turn biters off completely. So then having to, then there really is no point in doing military. So it's nice that the developers, thought of that and allow you to, choose not to do it. So we're going to do the same thing here as we have been doing. We're going to just merge. We're going to bring 2 lines down. I think it's just a little cleaner on the bus itself. I'm going to run both these at the same time, actually, try to make things a little bit easier for ourselves. Luckily, green circuits are quite close, so this guy goes here. We are going to need to underground this, since, of course, there's no room for an underground right there. And that is a situation you'll run into sometimes. It's no big deal. And then this, I'm going to have to probably underground that as well. And there we go. Okay, so that's done. This needs blue circuits, which are a ways away, unfortunately, but not too bad. And like I said, it's a very simple recipe. This is easy. We got this set up in no time. It's just going to be very slow, because the recipe itself is slow, and then also just the expense of it is going to put a very, large demand on our resources here. And there we go. Since I'm not sharing, that can be a full belt. This is going like this. It's not a ton. We certainly could expand this. I don't think we'll necessarily even have enough materials for this amount, though. So, if you don't have enough to run, X size build, there's not much point in expanding the build, at least at that time. And then we're just going to run a belt directly next to the blue circuits here, going the other direction to get these rocket control units to where we want. We don't know exactly where we want them. I guess we do, because we've already put a box with the rocket fuel, which is way over here. So the rocket silo will go over there, and I'm going to run this belt. Now what I'm going to do, we've hit some trees, so I'm going to just hold shift, and my robots will place them. And this just saves me from having to chop down the trees, is basically the reason for doing this. Now this is a very big building. I forget how big this is. I would like this to line up exactly. However, with the length of this belt, I don't even need to put a chest right now, because the belt itself acts as a buffer, which in some cases is bad. In this case, it's fine. We're going to actually maybe get majority of, or all of the rocket control units we need just sitting on this belt. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know the exact numbers by eyeballing it, but it's going to be a lot. So these are starting to produce against it's a very slow craft, 30 seconds. And these machines, keeping in mind, are 0.75 speed, so it's actually even more than that. The rocket silo is slowly going. I'm guessing it's pretty much entirely a slowdown on the labs themselves. Just not enough labs. Yeah, we really don't have very many labs at this point. We could make some more, certainly. I'm going to go ahead and grab some ammunition. We will need to go take care of those biters. And I think perhaps it wouldn't hurt to make a few more labs. Just speed this up. We're not capped on science at all. So if your research is going slow, you can either add more labs. You can also make sure you do some lab research speed. upgrades the technology, which we have done a fair few of. This is just, you know, a very long, expensive research. So unless you have some, you know, mega base size lab field, of course, you know, you're going to end up running into some slowdowns here. I'm just making sure that. So these are actually not working. I forgot a longhand inserter, and I think these have been here for quite some time, unfortunately. A little bit embarrassing, but it happens. Let's just get that going like that. This is extended slightly past where it needs to go. I'm just gonna stick these in here. And let's go repair those turrets. So we now have 2 out of the 3 materials. Well, we technically have all three materials needed for a rocket being made, technically. I'm still undecided, honestly, if I want the low density structures to be, if I want them to be pulled from that build we have, or if we want to build a separate setup. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts now. Find out our repair packs, otherwise our bots would be repairing this lickety-split there. We are being attacked down by that train station. It is certainly probably worth going and defending that, or at least putting up some turrets. It looks like, oh, I'm glad I came down here. Would have lost quite a lot otherwise. I'm actually dead. Oh, that's embarrassing. Well, there you go, guys. So that is what happens. Spitters hurt a lot. Now, there are some options. We could load a save. We can also just respawn. I am perfectly fine just respawning at this point. We killed some of them. We're going to lose a few things, but they're spitting at nothing apparently, so that's fantastic. We actually spawned really quite close. I may be able to walk up and just retrieve my body. So I'm right here. We'll see what happens. Your body does expire after a certain amount of time. So I just grabbed everything. No big deal. Luckily for us, they bugged out there a little bit. No pun intended. So that was a fairly serious attack. I think that one had to have come from over here, unless we're not quite hitting these bases. I'm quite confident that came from here, maybe. We'll have to go deal with that. Let's go ahead and get that thrown in there. I'm going to die again. The spit hurts a lot, guys. That's what killed me, is I stood in the spit, and it slows you down. So it can actually be quite hard to avoid standing in it sometimes. But again, no need to panic. I mean, obviously that was a fairly unique situation. However, if you do have biters come and attack your base like this, now this doesn't necessarily work if you go attack them and die, because then when you die, there's nothing for them to focus on if you like go attack their base. But if they come to you and are attacking you, and then you die, like they shoot you and kill you, and then they start focusing on something else, you usually can pretty safely walk up and just get your body and all your stuff like I did, because they won't change focus unless you actually shoot them or they kill what they're shooting at the time. And even then, I'm not sure they would necessarily refocus on the player. I'm not 100% on that. So it's usually pretty safe in that situation. So that's just a tip. You know, if you die in your base, you can usually get away with just, coming in, retrieving your stuff with no big problem there if they're decided to focus something else, So we'll just expand this out. Even more iron is never bad, right? Being attacked again, same spot. The spitters do hurt a fair bit. I'm gonna make just one more row of cement. That's really all about all we can fit here. We're actually running into some coal problems, which is a bit unfortunate. You can see we're running very low here, so I think we need to rework some things. Okay, this is a situation I think where I had decided I didn't need to tie this in at the time. I think I certainly do now. What we can do here is that one can be for the bus and fueling the smelters. We really don't need it. We need one full line for each of those by any means. I'm going to do this. However, we do want to make sure we do mine out this starting pad. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to come in the splitter. We're going to input priority this side right here. So this is going to prioritize this, and then any gaps that are left to be filled will be filled by this belt. But this makes sure that this still runs. If we didn't do that, this would just sit there and never run, and we'd just be left with that, bad ore patch we can't do very much with. So that's a good way you can take care of that power is a little bit on the verge. It's mostly because we're doing research at the current moment. And if we go check on these labs, let's make sure they're all running. They're all glowing, which is fantastic. We can go check on our rocket fuel. Blue science is falling a little bit behind, primarily due to blue circuits. Red circuits. Now we can upgrade these machines. That, of course, may pose a resource problem, because that, of course, speeds them up by 50%. They were 0.5 speed, they're now 0.7. But that is a 50% increase overall, which is quite nice. Oil is looking pretty good. And, at this point in the game, at least for me, this, this may not be the most entertaining to watch, but this does come down a lot of times. You're just running around your base, finding out what's wrong, checking all your resources, making things are fine, etc. We're up to 277, which is quite good. All things considered, it's very slow. This will eventually get there. This is backing up. If I hit connected about, you can see we have already a decent number here. There's a very specific number we'll need, which I will go into once we build the silo that takes into account the productivity modules. Again, we are very low on red circuits. In fact, there's just really none of them. It's pretty much non-existent at this point. We could expand this build. If we come over here, I don't actually think there's probably barely not enough room there. I don't know how that actually managed to kill those with normal ammo. So if we go something like this, just expand this, we would need to reroute these belts, or we could just build it way up here. That seems a little bit ridiculous. But we could do this, and it wouldn't be too hard to reroute these belts. And I think that's what we may do next time. This seems like a pretty good place to stop, guys. We did get one of the other rocket parts components to make the rocket parts made, which is fantastic. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed and found it helpful. Hopefully some of my struggles and just thoughts helped you out. Hopefully you're still enjoying the series. If you are, a like is much appreciated so other people can still find the series and this video. Hopefully find it helpful too. If you're new to the game, I'll give you a big welcome. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe to keep up with all the new content I'm putting out. Guys, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Leave your thoughts and any questions you have down below. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.